But Edey's junior year was an absolute game changer. With his minutes bumping up to 31.7 per game, he really hit his stride. He was averaging 22.3 points, 12.9 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks, while shooting an impressive 60.7% from the field and 73.4% from the free throw line. And he won just about every accolade possible in his junior year. He won the National Player of the Year, First Team All-American, Big Ten Player of the Year, First Team All-Big Ten, Big Ten All-Defensive Team, Big Ten Tournament MVP, and he even won the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Award for the best center in the NCAA that season. That's a complete sweep in his junior year. Edey was a force to be reckoned with. And it wasn't just his height, but also his weight that gave him the strength to dominate in the paint, unlike many other towering players who might be on the skinnier side. There's no doubt that his physical presence will be at the top, even for NBA standards. He'll likely be not just one of the tallest, but one of the heaviest players in the league. But even after his historic junior year, he was projected to only be a second-round pick in the 2023 NBA draft.
And good afternoon to you. Welcome to the King's Court Live Edition, 2 p.m. Ryan in Sacktown with you, 33 already checked in. Happy to have you here. We listened to a little bit about Zach Edey coming in on the bump in. Look, that name's come up a lot with you in the chat, so I wanted to give you a little on him. We can talk more about him later in the show. Did you catch last night's show with Grant and I, the Tuesday night scrum, post-game scrum? Grant, we were on different sides of the spectrum when it came to the Mike Brown extension. Now, some of the things that matter to you, some of the things that actually go into the consideration and matter for me in formulating my opinion are unchanged. Now, some of the stuff that Grant did bring up outside of that did make me think a little bit about Monty McNair and Mike Brown together, their contracts. Do you want those two in line? What happens if you don't bring Mike Brown back? What happens if Monty gets out as GM? And I know these are all hypotheticals, but typically a GM, just like in this case, likes to hire their head coach. So with everything Vivek's been through, and let's remind you that Monty McNair did get a contract extension already, and it was a 3-year extension, no option on the end of that. So that does change things a little bit. I don't know how much it changes things, and I respect Grant's take on it because obviously he's been inside those walls far more than I have. He knows the owner way better than I do. So we've got to put some weight into that. But I want to continue that discussion, especially now that Tyronn Lue gets paid by the Clippers, even though the Clippers get bounced. He is now one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid, at about 14 million. Was it 12 or 14 a year? We'll go over it in a little bit. So it is extension season if you are an NBA coach right now. And that's kind of the time that you want to do it, because your moves that you're going to be making, whether they be at the draft, whether they be at free agency, you got to plan for those and you got to be ready for those, and everybody's got to be on the same page. But we haven't really dissected the dynamics of this season. There's stories that have gone around about maybe what was off. Maybe somebody was a little jaded at times. Maybe guys weren't agreeing with systems, etc. But there was never any clear reporting. So I'll ask you, all of you, this. And the question is, what did your eye test tell you? Because I've maintained for so long, and I hear it from people that are outside of Sacramento that say you guys are the best fans and the most knowledgeable fans in the league because you've been through it all, relocation stuff. You've been through bad basketball. You've seen great basketball. So it educates a fan base. And really, if you're a Sacramento fan during the lean times, like even back in the 90s, right? The Richmond years, you had to be a fan of just hard work and grind when it came to basketball because those Kings teams were not as talented as the other teams in the league. And I know that started to change, but they always worked their asses off. So we can get into some more Kings talk. Scotty Scheffler. Remember, we've talked a lot about that here on the King's Court. His arrest, charges dropped against Scotty Scheffler, just as I predicted, as so many others thought that could be coming. I actually thought maybe an infraction would stick, but charges completely dropped. And I found Scotty's Instagram post to be really, really interesting. We can talk about that. Also, we are doing Ry-does.
No, 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 no.
That's a new one. We're doing the Ry-does today. We're not going to spin the wheel because there's 3 of them that I hope to get to. In fact, I'm going to kick you off with one of them. But no matter what you do in life, isn't it funny that everything can be smooth sailing for the day? Everything's going well. Everything's on schedule. You've got your workout in, kids in school. Everything's perfect, right? Your meetings are all lining up. But then it's like everything at one time, like right before something like me coming on the air. So it just all comes coming down. And it's like, okay, I'm going to get a soda water. Last soda water in the fridge. All right. Well, that means I got to go to the store, right? And then I check my phone. So I got my little routine before the King's Courts. And there's a text from my wife saying, "Honey, I forgot. I've got an important business dinner tonight in Vacaville." And so now it's a mad scramble to make sure that we're going to have dinner ready for the little man when he gets here, make sure homework's done in between the King's Court. I also got the haunted horse show later today, so I had to talk with him about that. And then, it's just one of those things. It's the mad scramble right before something comes up. Flores, what's up, my man? Yes, no morning shoot around. There's actually a very funny story behind that. So there is a very funny story. I appreciate you pointing that out. The reason there is no morning shoot around is I have maintained for a really long time, I do not edit the King's Courts. They are just one solid take. And I like that because to me, imperfection is perfection. So there was a couple of retakes that I had to do. My son's got these little routines that he's always got to ask me, like, "Hey dad, are my shorts on the right way?" "Hey dad, can you help me fix my socks?" Every single morning, those are 2 things. So my wife, who doesn't always go into the office, had to go into the office today. And so helping her get out the door, making sure everybody's fed. And so Flores, there was like this 25-minute period of time where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get this morning shoot around out. And so I start recording, and then the dog starts coming in and he's barking for whatever reason at anything I'm saying. He's going, "Arr!" And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I had to restart then, right? And so then I go start recording again. And the little man comes up to me and he breaks my thought. And I'm like, all right, I don't want to leave that in there. And I don't want him breaking in. And so then I'm like, all right, we'll get a really short one out, 10 minutes just to have something. And I get it recorded. It's all good. Little man comes up to me thinking that the recording is done. And it was supposed to be done. But the system that we use, for whatever reason, when I hit end recording, it didn't start, or it didn't end the recording immediately. And so he comes up and he goes, and it was literally on the tail end, and that's not a play on words. You could hear it. So I'm like, you know what? It's just not meant to be. I'm not putting that out, but we'll make sure that we got shoot arounds going forward every morning as we usually do. Finchy, what's up, man? You are here on time. You can go to hollywoodrejects.com if you want to go check out where those shows are at. I'm not going to put the link up here, Johnny. You got my phone number, dude. You can text me if you can't find it, but go to hollywoodrejects.com. So Flores, yeah, that is why there was no morning shoot around. I didn't think flatulence was a good way to go on Wednesday. I think that we'll just let that one slide. Another not meant to be play on words, but I guess that was. Anyways, all right. So, you know what? I'm going to start off with a Ry-doe today. Let's have a little fun. And I'm going to pose a question to all of you, too. If you want to get your does in here, please do. You can call the show 916-399-3748. You can also call through Restream. You don't have to be on video for that. You know how we did the movie question on Friday? So I was in the car earlier today, and In Sync came up on the playlist, and I'm like, how the hell did In Sync end up on my playlist, right? And so I realized that when my wife and we did like a shared thing with our iPhones, because this last weekend we went to get the little man his first cell phone, which still is like mind blowing to me that my kid has a cell phone. But anyways, we did this thing where she can see anything on my phone and vice versa. I can see anything on her phone, and our songs merge and all that. And so I just kind of had to laugh when I heard the In Sync song, but then it started to get me thinking. And I was like, what was the one concert that I went to? Like, whether it was college years, high school, whatever, what was the one concert that I didn't tell anybody about? Like, I did not want anybody knowing I was at that concert, kind of along the same lines as the movie. So I've got mine. I'm wondering what all yours are. So if there is a concert that maybe you had a girlfriend at the time that was like way into the boy bands, like hit me up. I want to know what it is. Adam, hopping in really quick about Coach Brown. Back to the Coach Brown situation. As an owner, I'm not re-signing Brown just yet. As a fan, re-sign the man. If there's a rift between a player and the coach, I think we can narrow it down to 3 players. That's a fair assumption, Adam. And that's what I kind of want to pick at here today. I'm really glad that you sent that comment in. And I'm asking about the eye test. What did you see? One thing that I can tell you that I saw was 2 years ago. And granted, it was different. The Kings were the upstart team. They were that team that was shaking up the Western Conference, right? And so there's a difference between being the disruptor and then being the hunted. And I don't want to say that the Kings were the hunted this year, but I did talk to a number of people outside of the Kings organization, in fact, in other organizations, about what they thought about Golden One Center. Why is it that sometimes when teams came into the G1C this last year, they were just shooting the lights out? It was like they were playing inspired basketball. So that's part of what I want to pick at as well. But the one thing for the eye test, Adam, to me, was that year they made the playoffs, it looked like they were having so much fun playing basketball. This last year, it did not look that way to me. I saw a noticeable difference. And again, maybe part of that is because the scouting's different. Teams have kind of honed in on, the Kings' flaws in terms of the roster. You cannot argue that one of the flaws on this roster is there's not enough creators. You can't argue that. You can't tell me otherwise. The hard evidence pointing to that is that De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis were both in the top 20 in the NBA in turnovers. That means their burn rate was incredibly, incredibly high, and the Kings really relied on them for the playmaking. Malik Monk, great playmaker, but you didn't have him down the stretch. Adam hopping back in. The Kings, just like getting a promotion at your job. Let's see, it always fun and exciting in the beginning. And yes and no. I mean, there's part of that, true. But, this is a team that you ran back. So you've got personalities that maybe we don't know about any conflicts from that first year, right? Maybe there was something there that carried over. I have an idea of something that could have rubbed me the wrong way. I really, really do have an idea about that. And I've already hinted at that a little bit. I did not hear Grant's rant, but he is solid in the camp. Like, why would you extend Mike Brown? And so I disagree with him on that, but he does bring up some good points that would be reasons not to extend Mike quite yet, that I think are objections that we need to look at and see if they can be overcome, because I'm not sure that they can. So clue me in, Sea Dog, on his rant. And by the way, Grant and I will be back together at 8 o'clock tonight. We'll be doing it all over again. No post game to be had, so we'll do an open forum, a scrum you guys can call. We had Alex call last night, NBA Guru call. We love it when you guys call in. And when we do open forums, I keep saying this, you do not have to talk about basketball. You do not have to talk about the Kings. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. We have fun with that kind of stuff. Now, keep it within reason. I don't think I need to lay out the boundaries of what's off limits and what's on, but you get my point. So, all right, let's get back to my first Ry-doe really quick.
No, 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 no.
So check it out. When I was in college, and I bet a lot of you could relate to this, by the way, and thank you for being here on the King's Court. 96 already have checked in or watching live on X and YouTube. Happy to have you, Ryan, in Sacktown here. So in college, I had a pretty close group of friends. I had the basketball team, and then I had another group that was, we kind of met. We were all from the Northern California area. None of us knew each other. Actually, one set of friends knew each other. But we ended up linking up at the rec center. You know how they do open gyms and all that kind of stuff, or you just go play. Well, we kind of met like that, and we became really close. And so once basketball had wrapped up for me at San Diego State, I went to live with three of the guys. We had a little condo that was an exit up from campus, and it was great. And one of the things that we had, so check this out, we had a kegerator, and it was really cool. We all had our own cups, and we had these big footballs, and we were responsible with it. We weren't drinking like knuckleheads, but if you wanted to have a beer, cold beer was available on tap, and a lot of our friends knew about that, and that's awesome. That's why you put a keg in your house. If you put a keg in your house just for yourself, then maybe you're drinking a little bit too much, unless you live alone, right? But anyways, we had an agreement in college, or at least when we all lived together. We literally did this. We said, everybody, we go in a round robin and we take turns buying the keg. And we agreed once we went into a full cycle of a keg, when we came up to the beginning of the list again, we decided what categories we wanted to do. So that way, somebody wasn't getting screwed if somebody was like, hey, I want an IPA, wasn't big then, but let's get a keg of IPA as opposed to a keg of Natty or a keg of Bud Light. A little bit of a price difference. So we had a good thing going, and it worked out well. Well, carry it over into your personal life, your business life, your group of friends. There's always that really close group of friends where it's like, you don't mind picking up the check if you guys all go out to eat, because, inevitably they're going to pick up the check too, right? It's like, oh, I've got the next one. And that's fair. And those are usually your closest friends. And anybody that's gone out to eat with me, you'll know, like, I reach for the check. I like to be able to pay when I can. Obviously, I'm not going to go into debt to pay for somebody's lunch. But if I'm asking you to go out to lunch or I'm asking you to get together, the assumption is that one's on me. But the problem is when you have that one dude that wiggles his way into the group, he's always an outsider. He's never part of the original group. And he thinks he's part of that relationship. The whole, oh, dude, dude, you're about to get some corn dog. You just popped onto my screen. I need some details. Look, we had a picture of you from yesterday, corn dog, at your Costco basketball tournament. You didn't even show up. My goodness, man. You better have a good reason. Anyways, interrupting the right.
No, 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 no.
I'm just playing with you, corn dog. So getting back to what I was saying, there's that one guy that wiggles their way in that thinks they're closer with you than they really are, right? And that is also usually the guy that thinks that I'll get the next one is part of the agreement with us. It is not. You are not in that group because you know what happens? That dude almost never, ever gets the next one. And you know, the one that dude usually gets is like if you're at a Starbucks and it's like, 25 bucks for 4 drinks, right? Oh, I got that. That doesn't count as the you got that, man. Like, you got to pick up a meal. You can't do fast food. Maybe fast casual, maybe, but no, like I don't do the I got the next one with somebody that I don't really know. And the worst I've got the next one is date guy. Date guy that sometimes, oh, I forgot my wallet. Oh, my card declined. Oh, but tell you what, since I don't have the balls to ask you out on another date, how about you pay so I have to see you again to pay you back for that? So for whatever reason, I've got the next one guy popped up the other day in my circle, and it just reminded me. I'm like, dude, no, you are not part of that arrangement, my friend. Ry-doe, let's see. Why did you not wear a baseball cap yesterday when you usually do? And Jerry wore a baseball cap when he really doesn't. What's the deal? Good eye, Dave. Good eye, buddy. I don't know why I didn't wear a cap yesterday. I just didn't. We actually have rules around that. If 2 of us have them on, the third's got to throw it on. So we've got those little informal things. But good eye by you. The kegerator days, yes, those were good indeed. Corn dog all the way from Costco. Dude, before you say anything, you had people in the chat calling it a Costco instead of a crossover. We wanted to get dialed in, bro. We had a picture of you saying raindrops, let it fly. How'd the tournament go or the game go, man?
Undefeated champs. Let's go.
Undefeated. So what do you get for that? Did you get
just the picture?
Just the victor.
Hey, dang, that picture went viral then if it got to you guys.
Yeah, man. I didn't know you guys had media there. Good job by you.
Yeah, that was not on me. That was probably Carl, the manager.
Yeah. Well, are you gonna? Here's the big question we all want to know: are you gonna declare for the draft?
NIL money's looking good right now.
Okay, NIL. All right, there you go.
Name, image, likeness, dealer sponsorships.
There you go. Okay, I see you, corn dog. So what's up, man?
Oh man, I had a lot of stuff to do Tuesday since I was playing basketball Monday.
Understood.
Yeah, I had to push I had a doctor's appointment right during the show. Oh man, yeah, it was and I was sore as all it can be.
How old are you? If you don't mind me asking. 28. Yeah. Wait till you get a little bit older.
I've had a lot of surgeries on my on my end too, but
oh man. Well, I'm glad you're grinding after that, man.
You know what? We kicked butt. We ran them off the court near the end. We were doing 10-minute halves, and we were up 12-1 in the championship game at halftime, and we just ran them out after that.
Nice. I love it, man.
But so the other building, this happened last year and then this year too. They tried starting a fight again. They always do this where they get so competitive over literally there's no prize involved and it's just company basketball.
And they tried to start a fight? Do you guys have so who's reffing, by the way?
So this time we had no refs. It was just
that's a problem.
Mind you, we won and we were the only ones that didn't call fouls. So that should tell you that we just, just play on. plus we're running clock too because we only had that gym for so long, and their teams would be arguing over like whose ball. I'm like, I'm running the clock. I'm like, you guys are just killing your own. You're shooting yourself in the foot, just arguing. Just play on.
Well, dude, you came out victorious. That always starts an argument if you don't have the refs, because there's always that dude that's calling the touch fouls when nobody's calling anything but obvious fouls.
It's funny because that team didn't even started. Yeah, the cold building that deals with like the chill freeze, what they call it, that deals with like the carrots, strawberries, blueberries, all the stuff that's got to stay at a certain temperature. Those guys, they first of all they bring enough for 2 teams, and then they had a groupie section that was doing like buzzball shots.
Oh, a groupie section.
Yeah, they were doing buzzball shots, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, what are you guys even doing?
The
like
groupies are
a
real.
bunch of people that weren't playing were just there to watch. I'm like, what are you doing on Memorial Day where you're just watching your coworkers play basketball? Not participating is one thing, but just you're just there just to watch and just do buzzball shots. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to sometimes, my man. Your shirt's getting some love.
Mike Hess Brewing. Oh, wait, just 1 second. Since you mentioned the Mike Hess Brewing, I got to show him this.
Look at this. We have people leaving the screen on the King's Court. How about that? Mike Hess. I've never heard of the dude. Never heard of his brew. But all right, how'd you get that?
Oh no, I got that from my old job.
There you go. Good stuff. Look at you guys. I love how all the people here are starting to connect and know each other. So well done. Any takes on what's going on with the Kings? Mike Brown? Anything else?
I gotta say, Mike Brown, you gotta give him the third. I say every coach gets 3 years. And no matter if you're firing within 1 or 2 years, you're not giving them enough time fairly to actually, because I mean, even Mike Ditka with the Chicago Bears, he said it'll take me 3 years, and they won. It's 3 years. That is your window to see the improvement and not. So year 1, we improved. Year 2, we took maybe a downside step, like a centimeter downside step. Like it was very close, record wise, scoring wise, player wise, almost everything wise, about the same. But we didn't make the playoffs. 1 year was a 3 seed, But that's just how competitive the West was this year compared to last season. In terms of the seeding and stuff, because Minnesota had a huge explosion. We knew the Thunder were on the rise. We knew it was bound to happen.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, there's the option on the deal now. He's got such a weird option, because there's an option in his camp, and then the Kings could say no, and vice versa. I don't know why you set it up that way. In fact, when you set something up like that, that makes it feel like the extension is all but guaranteed to happen before that option comes up. And here we are, 1 full season left before that could happen.
Yeah, I'm just a 3 years type of person, because that's just that just gives you the time to, establish your system and the players you want in this system, and pretty much just how to correlate with, what you got. And because let's just say let's say you just took over the Nets head coaching job after they traded all their picks for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and stuff.
Yeah.
And like those guys leave, and you're like, well, what do I have to work with? Like, you got to give me some time. Like, you can't expect me to turn that into a title contender within a year or 2.
Yep, I agree with you, man. We'll see what happens. I mean, again, I think it's all posturing. I think probably what makes sense is matching up the timelines with him and Monty, but we'll see what happens, man. Good take as always. 3 years, Condog says.
Yep.
All right, good stuff, man. Appreciate you being
All right.
here. Glad
Later,
the tournament went well, and happy to see you back, man.
Yes, sir. Back
All
in
right.
action.
That boy, that is our man Corn Dog. C-Dog 25 putting the headlines in the chat. I love it. Yeah, we touched on both of those, C, really quickly. I'm going to go over them a little bit more in detail. Yeah, so the Kings do have some free agents this year. Jordan Ford, not under contract. We already know about Malik Monk. Kessler Edwards, also not under contract. Then you got Jalen Slauson, Alex Len, and JaVale McGee. All of them are free agents. So what's going to happen there? We will see. Do the Kings retain any of them? That makes a big deal for the Kings front line. Who's going to play that backup center role going forward? That's yet to be decided. You got Trey Lyles, but that's more a small ball. So we'll see. I think the Kings, if they are smart, I would, out of that group, and I've already talked about him, Jalen Slauson. Jalen Slauson is the one that I am not quite ready to give up on. I think he could have a big summer this summer, and you don't have to sign him for much. Get him on a two-way deal and call it a day. Richard, welcome from Dallas, my man. How are you? Great. I'm glad you're always a Kings fan. You're in the right spot. Tons of Kings fans here. Dallasite? Oh my gosh, now we're getting Dallas love in here. Yeah, I don't know that the Kings are going to do that. Kess was they were sending him down to Stockton towards the end of the season before all the injuries started going crazy. So I think that's probably over, depending on what they do. And I got to talk to you all about the Brandon Ingram versus Kyle Kuzma thing. We hit on it last night. I've got some additional comments on it. It is a no-brainer. Like, it's not even close. I don't know why anybody is talking about bringing Brandon Ingram in. I just don't. I mean, unless there's like a sign and trade element to it, you get 1 year of Brandon Ingram at 35 plus million, I believe. 1 year, and you're going to give up a first round pick? I don't know about that. Harrison, Herter, I get. But you're losing a lot. You're gambling, especially when you have De'Aaron Fox coming up at the same time, y'all. Or actually, no, De'Aaron has 2 years. Excuse me. So De'Aaron would have one left. Peter, let's see. How does draft day trade of Mavericks Jaden Hardy look now? Not terrible. Not terrible, my friend. Dallas has had a very lucky year. Richard, good. I think he's talking back to Adam. Dallas, I said it weeks ago, anybody but Dallas making the conference finals, getting past OKC. And if you notice, the reports about ownership not being happy with Mike Brown, those came out after Dallas made the conference finals. And look, I don't know if the T-Wolves get back into this series. I'm actually shocked the T-Wolves won that game last night. The Mavericks had 30 points off of the T-Wolves turnovers. Towns finally starts hitting some threes again. And by the way, they were in deep foul trouble. Gobert, Towns, both with 5. It just felt like a game that Dallas should have won. And I know Minnesota had the upper hand most of the second half, but I guess where does that series go? If Dallas loses one in Minnesota, that shifts the pressure directly back onto the Mavericks. And, Luka, he's already talked about how important rest is for him. He's being held together with duct tape right now in these playoffs. Physicality, you can't see my fingers. Physicality, defense, and attrition. That's what it's been about. And, the longer a series goes, the more chances there are for somebody to get hurt. So I really, really would be paying attention to game 5 when that one rolls around. Mark, what's up, my man? The Clippers went 10 first-round picks. Yeah, or they want 10 first-round picks for PG-13. They can forget about it. The Rudy Gobert comp is done. Like, that was such an outlier. That was like 3 or 4 standard deviations away from the mean. Just like Monty Williams' contract in Detroit. Outlier. Complete outlier. You're not getting that many picks for Paul George. No chance. Let's see. Can the T-Wolves be the first team? I think. I love that, Flores. I think. In NBA history to come back and win from 3-0 deficit. Maybe if there is a team in the playoffs that I think could do it right now, it's them. And I know that we've only got a handful of teams left, but remember last series, Anthony Edwards told the locker room attendant in Denver, hey, we're going to be back for game 7. And they were. That kid plays with supreme confidence, not only in himself, but his teammates. So, sure, I think that they could be. And it's not as much about Minnesota as it is Dallas. I don't know if Dallas can sustain the basketball they're playing now. Like, I wish if I was a Dallas fan, I would be wishing this was the NBA Finals because they really are humming at all levels and they are clicking. They are the best team. Now, understand what I'm saying. They're the best team. They play like a team left in the playoffs. I am not sold on Boston. I have not been sold on them the entire postseason. Boston is good down the stretch, but they play with their food a little bit too much. And although they're good down the stretch, they're not good enough to keep playing with their food when teams get better as the playoffs go longer and you get on a stage like the NBA Finals. I mean, the stage right now for Dallas does not appear to be too big. Look, Minnesota, too, I want to jump back to that. Minnesota, in my opinion, and I think Reggie Miller pointed this out, and it was a great observation by Reggie Miller. He said, look, they had something to play for. There was reason. There was something motivating them against each team in the first couple rounds. You know, it's taking down the champs in Denver. It's whatever it may be. There was something, and for whatever reason, it seems like it's stalled a little bit. And the big thing that keeps it from stalling is obviously Anthony Edwards and Cat. When Anthony Edwards is not playing well, Cat is the one usually that they turn to step up because look at what Denver did many times. They doubled Anthony Edwards. I believe it was game 3 or game 4. Anthony Edwards was doubled 34 times that game. So that's where your Jaden McDaniels, those guys have to step up and make shots. Indeed. Richard hopping back in. What year did the Kings play in Kansas City, Missouri at the Kemper Arena? I do not know. Richard, it's a great question. Hit us up at 8 o'clock tonight when Grant and I are back on. He will likely know the answer to that. Adam hopping back in. I don't think PG is the dude to put us or any team over. I don't think that's fair. I think he could put a young team back on the map. And I don't know if that means putting them over, but a PG in San Antonio, for instance, that could work. Look, San Antonio has 2 picks in the top 8 in this draft, and I expect them to be very busy. In fact, I think San Antonio is going to be in a similar position as the Kings, looking at a Kyle Kuzma, looking at a Brandon Ingram. And I sure as hell hope that they take Brandon Ingram over Kyle Kuzma, because Brandon Ingram, again, you only have him for a year. Do you realize that? Grant pointed out how little he has played historically in his career in a complete season. And to throw that into the Kings mix with a team that Mike Brown wants to play physical, a team that he wants other teams to feel them right out of the gate, Brandon Ingram ain't that player. He's not. So I just don't see it working. Now, Kyle Kuzma, he's not necessarily a physical player, but I think he mixes it up a little bit more. And here's the key. You got 3 more years of Kyle Kuzma if the Kings were to bring him in, and his pay declines over each season. So it's actually a very reasonable contract. That would be one trade that I would be willing to overpay a little bit, just a little bit, if I'm Monty McNair and the Kings, because regardless of whether or not you bring Malik Monk back, you need a guy like Kuzma, a guy that can create, because that's what he does. Kuzma can create, and Kuzma plays a lot of games for bad teams. He's done it on both stages. He's done it in LA, and he's done it in Washington. So he's been at the top of the NBA and right at the bottom of the NBA. I think he is a great fit for Sacramento. And if I am the Kings, that is who I am targeting. I know a lot of the other insiders here in Sacramento, really big on Brandon Ingram. I get that it's only a 1-year commitment, but when you're in a small market, you need a bigger commitment than that. When was the last time the Kings traded for a free agent that only had a year left on their contract? Give me one. A significant free agent. I don't remember one. Help me out. Pick me up on that. Dre, what's up? Oh, let's get Sea-Dog first, and we'll go to Dre. History tells me that the Kings won't be able to land any name as big as Kuzma. That's a good point. Dre hopping in. Anthony Edwards always plays well, and he's always playmaking and getting others involved. He's a great playmaker. Ant's averaging 8 assists. Ant is a throwback. He stepped out of a time machine from the 90s. He is a throwback 2-guard. I'm not trying to call him Michael Jordan. He is not. I'm not trying to call him Kobe Bryant. He is not. But he plays the game similar to those guys. He's got that killer instinct. He's got that mental edge a lot of times on other players. And he trusts his teammates. Do you know how far that goes when you are a star like that and your teammates know that you trust them? That makes a huge difference. And the greats always had that. Look at Jordan. He had Kerr. He had Kukoc. He had all those guys that he could trust. Think about the shot Steve Kerr made to win the NBA championship. Jordan trusted him. So that to me is a key element of Ant's game that I absolutely love. So yes, I am enthralled with that young man. Is that Werner Klemperer from Hogan's Heroes? Huh, good pull, Lau. I have no idea who that is, but some of you probably get it. Yes, he does. Adam, why you doing the skull, man? What's up with that, my man? No, I misspelled arena wrong. No worries. Not a big deal. The dude is still young. Wait until he's 25 or 26. Agreed. I just, you could put him in any position in the NBA, any position, good team, bad team. He's one of those guys that will make your team contender. By the time, as long as he stays healthy, as long as he's able to do that, his team will always be in contention because they have him. I know I'm blowing him up really big, but guys, look at what he does. He's got it all. He's got the fundamentals, the footwork, the knack for sharing the ball. It's incredible. And he's made I'm on record. He is the freakiest athlete I've ever seen in my life. Some of the plays that he made this year, the block to win the game, the dunk where he hurt his hand, those are like freaky plays from that movie. Oh gosh, what was the movie with the Wayans brothers? Is it called The Sixth Man? Maybe it was, where one of the brothers passes away and he comes back and, he's like lifting the players up and they're doing flips in the air and dunking the ball. Yeah, like Anthony Edwards is that freaky. Let's see. You changed my mind about Brandon Ingram. He is way too brittle. Well, I don't want to, John, I don't want to paint him with a broad brush because he played more games this year than he has. And hell, Kings couldn't beat the Pelicans this year, and he was a big part of that. I just, if the Kings, look at the Kings and the times this season the team was successful offensively and the times that they were not. When the Kings were successful on the offensive side of the ball was moving. Everybody was touching the ball. Guys were cutting. Guys were setting screens, using screens, acting, faking like they have multiple options, which they did to shoot, take the screen, decline the screen, whatever it may be. Those were the times the Kings were the most dangerous this year. And you knew it when they came out of the gate, when they were playing that way. You absolutely knew it. I have been critical of De'Aaron Fox for being too much of an isolation guy, especially this year. This offense, especially when you have somebody like Sabonis, who everybody wants to say that this is De'Aaron's team. It is not De'Aaron's team. Domantas Sabonis is making the most money and has the longest guarantee out of any player on that roster. It is his team. And so you can't take an isolation guy and pair him with a guy that is like a Jokic. And obviously Jokic is better than Sabonis, but the two play a very, very similar style of basketball. That's a style where the ball is moving. That's why Sabonis is doing the DHO. That's why he needs to work in that three ball. That is so important this season. We keep talking about who can we match up with Sabonis on the front line because of the spacing. Well, I can tell you the absolute last type of player that you want to bring in is an isolation guy. And Brandon Ingram is just that. He's an ISO guy. Brandon Ingram is an ISO player. So now you have, assuming he was on the Kings, that would probably go De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Brandon Ingram in terms of star power. Maybe you could shuffle those. I don't know how we would rank those. But out of those three guys, two of them are more isolation than team ball moving, etc. So you have a problem to me in styles there. And that's one of the big questions that we have to have answered this season. What is this team's identity? It is not shooting the three ball. Every team in the NBA is a three-point shooting team. What is the Kings' identity? Seriously, you can host my show if you can tell me what the Kings' identity is, because sometimes it's defense, sometimes it's sharing the ball, sometimes it's just letting Fox do his thing. What is it? We just don't know. So I just think when you look at the team aspect, Kyle Kuzma across the board, much better fit, much better deal. Yeah, I did see that. Good job by you. C-Dog. Adam, you got a Ry-doe. The cop who arrested Scotty. Yeah, it's funny, and I see a couple of Ry-does in there. We were going to get to the Scotty Scheffler stuff. Look, I've talked at length. Yeah, you're right, but I want a good identity, an identity you build around. You don't build around inconsistency, but that is fair, C-Dog. Okay, so the officer was Scotty Scheffler. So let's go through the timeline of events, right? Scotty Scheffler on his way to the tournament. There was a fatal crash. Or not a fatal crash, but a pedestrian was hit who was working the tournament, and cars were backed up. Scotty was waved through to go into Valhalla. And the new video surfaced of this last week, which we broke down in detail. But before that happened, the story going around was that Scotty basically dragged an officer who tried to stop his vehicle. And Scotty maintained, and he couldn't talk about the details, but he said from the start, it was a misunderstanding. It was a misunderstanding. He remained consistent the entire way, this entire journey. And by the way, had this happened to you or I or somebody that's not the top golfer in the world, this may be a lot different. And let's just face the reality. It may be a lot different. But anyways, the officer says that when he was dragged, he had swelling and abrasions on his knee. His pants were ruined, yada, yada, yada. And so I called into question the fact that Scotty Scheffler was charged with felonies in a city, in a state that he does not live in. And he was released from jail within, I believe, less than 5 hours. Okay. I can tell you, if that's you or I, we are not being released without seeing a judge for a bail hearing, like, especially being from out of state. Now, he was released quickly without bail. So now I'm starting to get really interested. It's starting to smell fishy, right? And so then the court date gets pushed back, right? But before that, you have the co-owner of Valhalla come and pick Scotty up from jail. That's a statement, whether you want to believe it or not. That is a huge statement of support in favor of Scotty. And then you had the mayor, the governor comment on stuff. Well, come to find out, as this case gets pushed back a week, it stayed, that the cops weren't wearing body cameras, or at least this officer did not turn his body camera on. Now, you knew, regardless of whether this cop did everything by the book and things happened as he said, that he was going to be under a microscope. So some reports come out about disciplinary actions against him in the past, etc. And then the new angle of the video came out. And all along, I told all of you the charges will be dismissed. If anything, an infraction will stick, and that would be the only thing the city would try to do to save face. So they didn't have to fully drop charges. Now, last week, the same day that video came out, the exact same day, the mayor spoke and he's like, we're prosecuting, we're going all in, yada, yada, yada. Right? Yeah, he did do that, Anthony. No, he said, don't you know who I am? No, he didn't. That's the thing. Anthony, he didn't do that. I read that wrong. He didn't tell the cops who he was. The reporter had to say, hey, you know that's Scotty Scheffler, #1 golfer in the world? And then the cops realized once they got back to the station that he's all over the TV that's in the jail. Because Scotty said he was watching. It was on ESPN programming. And he was stretching in the jail cell. So going back to last week, the mayor is still saying, we're prosecuting, we're going all in. This video comes out. This cop was not dragged. If he was dragged, then it didn't happen during the time of the video that we saw. The view was obstructed slightly for about half of the video because of the buses that were there that were involved in the incident. But the video did catch the part where the officer came up to the car. There was nothing that Scotty appeared to do wrong, and this officer tried to punch his window out. Right? And so now you have a police report that is literally saying, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me, and justifying basically assault, a second-degree felony assault on an officer. And then you fast forward to today. Charges are dropped. Scotty Scheffler comes out and says, I want to read you exactly what he posted online. He put on Instagram, I hold no ill will towards Officer Gillis. He said Officer Gillis. They put Brian in parentheses. I wish to put this incident behind me and move on, and I hope he will do the same. Scheffler wrote in a Instagram story referencing the police officer directly. Scotty went on to say, police officers have a difficult job, and I hold them in high regard. This was a severe miscommunication and chaotic situation. So this is 110% a Ry-doe.
Go! 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 Go!
100%. And in fact, a Ry-doe doesn't even begin to characterize what this situation was. The fact that Scotty put this out publicly, number one, the subtle shot, whether you realize it or not, referencing the officer by his last name, that's calling him out. Instead of just saying the officer, Scotty's calling him out indirectly, which I do not have a problem with because the rest of everything he said was spot on. Look, what's going to happen to this officer if this he filed a false report? I mean, could that be confirmed? Scotty could really push this, and Scotty could make this a big deal. In fact, Scotty, you guys know, I've told you I have a legal background. Scotty could go after him and the city of Louisville for lost wages and defamation. He could. He absolutely could, but he's not. So I appreciate that on Scotty's behalf. In some ways, this made Scotty a bigger star. This made him a mainstream star, where before he was the #1 golfer in the world. If you watch golf, you know who he is. You know the name, you might not know the face, but now everybody knows who Scotty Scheffler is. And as for this officer and the city of Louisville, this is a bad situation. I told everybody, we talked about it before, you guys weighed in as well. This was not a good look from the start. Things did not make sense about this. And it's unfortunate, like I don't want to characterize this officer as a bad officer, a bad apple. I don't know him. So I'm not going to make assumptions about him. The only things I know about him are from this incident and what's been reported about past complaints or disciplinary actions against him. But what I can say is this city, Louisville, went all in with like a 16 with the dealers showing ace. Like they doubled down right there when they should have just backed off right from the beginning and done a more thorough investigation. And again, the first thing I said when we talked about it when the news broke on the King's Court was, where is the body camera footage and who else has footage of the incident? Because inevitably somebody else was going to have footage in this day and era. And especially when the number one golfer in the world's involved in it and there's a death, you got news stations that are out there covering things. So it's a bad look for Louisville. I think, in fact, Scotty is owed an apology. I think that's what Louisville needs to do, and they won't do it. They're going to let this be, but Scotty, being the class act that he is, he's walking away from it, but terrible look. I hate it because there's so many great officers out there, right? And officers at time, again, people that run towards the danger while most of us run away from it. It only takes, and it's like this in any industry, one bad apple to ruin the batch, but especially with this nation divided as it is, and cell phones and technology being everywhere. I told you, my son, my 9-year-old, now has a cell phone. Granted, there are heavy parental controls on that cell phone, but there's too much out there, situations that may have been going on for a very long time before that we heard about. You'd hear stories, but they were never substantiated. Those situations are now being caught on camera. So I don't think there's an uptick of these incidents. There's just an uptick of it being public now. So bad look for Louisville. In fact, an awful look for Louisville. And Scotty Scheffler, as always, a complete class act through this all. Just to give you a little bit more, this is what Mike O'Connell, the Jefferson County attorney, had to say. Based upon the totality of the evidence, my office cannot move forward in the prosecution of the charges filed against Mr. Scheffler. Mr. Scheffler's characterization that this was a big misunderstanding is corroborated by the evidence. The evidence we reviewed supports, and by the way, what evidence did you review? Other people's cell phones? Your officer didn't do his job. Your officer did not turn on his body camera. And your officer was working a scene, a traffic death scene, and he didn't have a body camera on. So, sorry, I had to interject there. Is corroborated by the evidence. The evidence we reviewed supports the conclusion that Detective Gillis was concerned for public safety at the scene when he initiated contact with Mr. Scheffler. Okay, well, you can be concerned about public safety. I get that, but for anybody that saw the new angle of the video, there is no way that what Scotty did, I mean, he wasn't even seeing what was going on because he's looking a different direction, it looked like, because he's being waved through by another officer. You're punching a window? You're trying to hold on to a car? I mean, public safety or your safety, which I understand your safety, but that officer put himself in danger. At least that's what the video shows me. So public safety at the scene when he initiated contact with Scheffler. However, Mr. Scheffler's, actions and the evidence surrounding their exchange during this misunderstanding do not satisfy the elements of any criminal offenses. So there you have it. A very, to me, lack of a better term, bullshit statement. It is a correct statement, but I think Scotty deserved a little bit better than that, or at least a closer to an apology, because this was not a situation that was closer to, hey, he's lucky to have the charges dropped. It wasn't closer to that. It's closer to, you need to apologize publicly to Scotty Scheffler. That did not happen. So that wraps that one up. It was a massive bad look for that police department. What they do going forward with the officer, that is up to them, but the spotlight is officially off that department.
Go! 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 Go!
All right, let's get back to the chat really quick. You want another Ry-doe? Dom Mysterio making out with Liv. She's gonna murder him, dude. Adam, anybody that gets to make out with Liv Morgan, I can't Ry-doe about that, dude. Liv Morgan's cool. Dom and Liv Morgan kissing. Oh, you put it in twice. The King's Identity, we got that one. Peter hopping back in. He's talking to Dennis. Lau. Great news. Look, see, this is what I love about the show. You guys are always bantering with each other. Who'd you rather have, Bam or Sabonis? Good question. James, do you with the current roster, I assume, with the current Kings? Let me think about that, James. Let me think about that. That's a really great question. Good job by you. They knew where to find him for the next 4 days. Yeah, right. He said, don't you know, he didn't. We already went over that, Matthew. They have the audio. There you go, Dennis. I would love to hear the audio. I did not hear. Well, yeah. What you're talking about, the reporters' audio. We played that here on the King's Court right after the incident happened. I have the audio of that as well. But where he's telling him, no, he's going to jail. There's nothing you can do about it. And then the cop was even like, well, who are you? What do you got to get out of here? And the cop, and then the reporter's like, well, I'm national media. And then the cop's like, oh, okay. You're fine. So, well, if you've got different audio than that, let me know. Carl, I love it. Thank you so much. Manila checking in. You know that we are 133rd on the iTunes chart for the basketball category. I want to be clear about that. 133rd in the Philippines. How about that? Love it. Anthony, respect my authority. One of my buddies does that that sound drop all the time. Well done by you.
How about no?
Dennis, the officer, said that he dragged him with his car. Yeah, he did. I know. No, the officer was talking to Scotty. Okay, I have not heard that. I mean, it's a moot point now. Anything that comes out now is just worse for that department. Just much worse for that department. So let's get back really quick, and then we'll probably wrap up. No calls yet, but you are welcome to call the King's Court. I will put the link in the chat. Also, the telephone number, 916-TC. He knows the telephone number, 916-399-3748. You can call that way, or if you want to come on through Restream, video is not necessary, but you can come on video as well. Yeah, it just makes it worse. It does. I mean, that department, that officer, he's still going to take some, but the problem is with disciplinary, a lot of that's internal. That's not going to come out publicly. Well, maybe it will. I did not practice in criminal, so it might. Who knows? Mark, what's up? Is it true the cop was mad he didn't yell for? All right, fair enough. You know what? It is fodder now. We can have fun with it. What's up, buddy? Happy you're here. That's all right that you're late. You're here. That's all that matters. And by the way, our man Patrick, off the clock. Hey, work.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
Patrick is out of the office. How are you going to function without him? Patrick checking in from Long Island. I love it. Any talk on the new NCAA football game? coming out. I don't know much about it. What's the big deal with it? I am not a big gamer. I know there is a lot of people looking forward to it. In fact, one of the guys that I know, he's a basketball coach. He posted something where he's like 45 days until it comes out. So I don't know. Is it supposed to be the next coming? My friends are trying to get me into Rocket League. Do any of you play Rocket League? I just, here's the problem with me in gaming. I can't, or I can multitask when it comes to stuff like this. Like, I've got a board here, I've got computers here, I've got my big monitor here, I got my camera here, I've got 2 mouses over here, got the mic, I've got everything working fine. I can do my sound drops. That's not a problem. But you asked me to play Grand Theft Auto and watch the map and try to drive, I can't do it. It was a mess. All my friends could always do it. I could not do it. So my friends were always like,
Go! Go!
No!
it was like that longer one. Duh. Yeah, so let us up. Just Beast up. What's up? It's been 10 years since the game came out. Okay, so you know what? The Ed O'Bannon lawsuit, NIL, got it. Got it. You know, the NCAA is settling a lawsuit that is pretty important. There's going to be payouts to past players. I don't know all the details on it. I'm not prepared to talk about it today, but you guys know my take on the NCAA. What do? The NCAA is the equivalent of a homeowners association for college basketball. They just cause problems. They make things a big deal that are not a big deal. And it's funny because when I was in college, I'll be quite honest with you, every team in some way or another operated in the gray. They did. It was part of the equation, but you couldn't go, 90 and a 65. Then the NCAA is going to step in. But then sometimes the NCAA would come in and, drop the hammer because somebody got a meal. Like, really? A meal? Get the hell out of here with that BS. The NCAA, I mean, college basketball and just college sports in general, they have never been closer to pro sports than they are now. Never, ever, ever. You're going to basically have 2 super conferences. These conferences are going to keep merging. You now have teams that are on the West Coast traveling all the way across the country. And let me tell you, at San Diego State, we would have the furthest we went was when I was there, the Maui Invitational. That was one. So that was like a 5-hour flight. And then the other one was Texas Tech when Bobby Knight was still the coach there. But outside of that, our travel was predominantly within the Mountain Time Zone, in the Pacific Time Zone. So now you've got teams on the West Coast that are traveling across the country regularly. That's like a pro sports thing, right? Like 82 games, 41 on the road. NIL guys can get paid now. You're going to, like Caleb Williams coming into the NFL, asking for a percentage of ownership of the team. That's only going to grow because these guys are not just coming into the NFL as themselves and as a player. They are coming into the NFL as a business. And that goes for the NBA. That goes for any NIL thing. Now, where people are going to get in trouble, there is a current lawsuit going on with the University of Florida where Coach Napier, not our Napier, promised a recruit basically some NIL money, which is a violation. You cannot pay for a commitment. And the commitment was sign with Florida, and this business is going to give you $11 million of NIL money. And that did not happen. The player ends up transferring and suing the school. So these players are operating as businesses. That's what they are. So how's that going to work? What are we going to see in the future? Are players going to want a bigger percentage of their NIL when it comes to a pro team? I mean, how many De'Aaron Fox jerseys sell compared to, say, an Alex Len jersey? A ton more. So I wonder how that's all going to evolve, but you're going to see more lawsuits like this with NIL, and then you're going to see guys asking for more as they come into the pros. So Fortnite's another one that they're trying to get me to do, Adam. I don't know. I'm not very good at it. I've never gamed on a computer, Most of the games that I played were either like the old school Nintendo stuff or probably the best video game ever. And I think we've got to take Madden out of the conversation there because Madden is like a franchise. But the best game I think I've ever played, two of them, NBA Jam. NBA Jam is so fun. He's on fire. And then Tiger Woods Golf. I think it was the PS2 version. That was just a wonderful game. Oh, I wish I could get that one back. Let's see. Yeah, okay. You guys are talking Fortnite now, tournaments, all that. Kings tourney at 8:30. Okay, you guys are starting to game together now. Here we go. Here we go. Look on the football side at how it went with Reggie Bush. Yeah, now Reggie's got his Heisman restored. Um, that's a slippery slope. And again, what is the NCAA doing? It just you take stuff away and then you start restoring it when it doesn't really matter. And it's the whole retroactive thing that causes a very difficult way to set precedent because now I know criminally they did that here in California with certain things where you could get something expunged, but it just opens up Pandora's box for everybody to challenge. That's right, to challenge past NCAA decisions. And where do you think the NCAA's money comes from? Comes from the universities. It comes from the NCAA tournament, comes from the college football championship, all of the money they get from TV rights. So instead of sharing that money with universities, with players, that money is going to fight BS lawsuits. Not BS lawsuits by the people bringing them, but lawsuits that shouldn't even be filed because the NCAA should have never taken action in the first place. So the money starts going there. So I have a huge problem with that, definitely. Let's talk some Zach Edey really quick. We had some audio at the beginning of him. Let's listen a little bit more about his senior year.
Leading Edey to decide to come back for his senior year at Purdue. Many of you might be wondering why he was not projected higher after such a dominating season of college basketball. And to be completely honest, there was still plenty of room for growth in his game. I mean, this guy didn't really start playing organized basketball until his sophomore year of high school. And entering his senior season at Purdue, he was still viewed as the big guy who dominated solely off sheer size and physicality, and needed to display more of a skill set in his senior year to get more NBA scouts on his radar. And it's safe to say that he has shown some signs of that in his senior season. His touch around the basket has been excellent, and his footwork has improved drastically. He's becoming less reliant on his size and is developing some real moves in his arsenal. And speaking of size, he's big, but what's optimistic is that he's showing to move better compared to earlier in his college career. His agility and coordination have definitely improved. And he's also shown to have an improved motor, going from playing 14 minutes a game in his freshman season to over 30 minutes consistently in his senior season. And while we know Zach Edey practically lives at the rim and many want to see more in his game, it is a fact that when he gets those mismatches inside, he has been simply unstoppable.
So let's talk about that for a second really quick, and we can go over Edey's career stats in college. The first thing that immediately sticks out to me about Zach Edey is 4 years of college. That makes a huge difference when it comes to entering the NBA and the transition. The game slows down a little bit quicker for those guys that have been in college for 4 years. And Rare is a prospect, a top prospect. And I'm not saying Edey's a top one. He's kind of one of those prospects where he could go high, he could drop. You don't know where he's going to be. But those guys, I think that brings additional value. Most of the guys, the Kings that have had success right off the bat, Keegan Murray, multiple years in college. A lot of the guys that were one and dones, it took some time to start up. De'Aaron Fox, for instance. So, and I don't know if Fox was the one and done. You might need to correct me there, but I know he wasn't there for his entire career. But anyways, getting back to Edey, you can't deny the size that Zach Edey has. He's massive. He's 7'4". His combine stats came in. They were all really good. And he's a thick 7'4", as they were saying on the scout profile right there. Now, anytime you draft a big man like this, you got to worry about injuries. We've heard this story before. Greg Oden, just to mention one of them. And big men, if you look at them traditionally, the big men usually are the ones that are the busts. They're not the ones that end up, being kind of the middle players. I mean, think about Michael Olowokandi. I know he got it back on the rails towards the end with the Clippers. Odin is a good example. There's many more I could go through. So you are taking a risk bringing in a guy like this. Now, back to his size. It's undeniable. He can clog the lane. There's no doubt about that. But what they just said right there, mismatches, that is something the Kings are so bad at. The Kings, when they were really good at it this season, it showed. Like Klay Thompson in the play-in game, he didn't score a bucket, right? The Kings ran that scout report to a T, and they created the mismatches they wanted right out of the gate. In fact, they created mismatches where Draymond was getting on De'Aaron. And I know Draymond is a little bit of a problem because of his length, but that's still a mismatch in favor of the Kings. So if you want to talk about creating mismatches, you need to have a system that does that consistently. And guess what? The top NBA systems, that is a trademark of what they do. They are thinking a step ahead instead of thinking of the next step that they're taking. And that's where the Kings need to improve. And that's solely also on the coaching staff. If the players aren't following the scouting report, then you pull their asses out of the game. And I get that managing and coaching NBA guys, I've told you a million times, is different than coaching a college team, your local high school team, whatever it may be, because it's a little bit more about managing personalities. And again, they are professional basketball players. Notice the first word, professionals, whatever you do for a living. If you are a professional, that means something. So you have to treat them with that type of respect and that knowledge base, because there is a reason they are in the NBA for the most part. Now, let's look at Zach Edey and the Kings. How would this fit? Well, right off the bat, it doesn't fit with Domantas Sabonis. Domantas needs to, we talked about it last night, extend his game. He has got to be able to shoot the three ball more consistently, because Domas, when he shoots the three, it's not terrible. The problem is his release. He's kind of got that Hallie thing going where it's not a quick release. It's a little bit of a windup, and the shot's coming, so it's easier to defend. Now, part of that with Domas, he makes great decisions, but he doesn't always make decisions quickly, and that's another part of the game that I think he can improve this summer, and that just in itself will change the game for the Kings offensively, because that changes how teams have to defend you. So if we're talking about a Domantas Sabonis that is able to create space on the floor, then Edey wouldn't be a bad option. Now, I don't think he's a guy that you bring in and you start right away. Edey is still a project. I mean, he would be lucky to be getting big minutes off of the bench. I think the Kings do need that role filled, because you don't have Alex Len currently under contract. He's a free agent. You don't have JaVale McGee. So the Kings clearly need another big guy. But I don't know that Edey is the best fit for this team. I look at him, and it's really hard to judge. You look at his college years, his numbers go up each year in scoring, 14 to 22 to 25.2 his senior year. Turnovers, that's another area that I look at very closely. Not terrible for a big man, but senior year went up because of his burn rate. He had 2.3 turnovers per game. That needs to come down in the NBA, because 2.3 turnovers in the college game is the equivalent of probably 4 in the NBA. We will get back to Edey in a second. Let's bring in my man who knows his basketball, Mr. Moss. What's up, dude, on this Wednesday?
What up, man? How's your Wednesday going, Randall?
It's going pretty good. How about yourself, man?
Not too bad, man. As always, I won't keep you long. I'm not big on Edey either. I don't like the way he moves. North, south, east, west. Guys like Chet Holmgren and your Yao Mings and guys like that. Their movement, doesn't excite me. I think Wemby moves okay. I think Porzingis moves great for his size. And so for a big man with that type of body style, right? I'm not trying to be biased here, but you're really taking a gamble on a guy like that, right?
Yep.
I think the level of injury or the chance for foot injuries has just plagued those type of players. And then you look around what's around him in Sacramento. No, absolutely not. I think we could get somebody in here that's way better than him, that's going to fit this team more than him. So, and then too, I don't think he's going to be available at 13. You think he will? I don't think he will.
I don't think he will. But you never know. There's so much false information out there right now.
Right.
You know, and that's why people drop in the draft. And, you know, when you hear a team, just for the record, putting down a guy, that means they like a guy usually.
Yeah.
They want you to stay away.
Yeah, they're posturing.
Yeah, 100%.
Trying to negotiate in the media.
Yes,
you know?
exactly. Right.
If you don't mind, I wanted to ask you about, is it okay to talk a little football, or is that cool?
Yeah, for sure.
I think the Chiefs are going to win again. I love their drafts this year. You know, they get another guy on the outside who can run, catch. You know, obviously Rice is the unknown with what's going with him, but you get Patrick any type of weapons, Rhino. He's going to make it work, right? And I think their defense is a lot better than what people gave them credit for. I saw Patrick play in person a few years ago here in San Francisco or Santa Clara, and they come back this season as well. And me and the wife would be at that game as well.
Cool.
But, I mean, when you look at the Chiefs just as a team, you know, their scheme, and of course it starts and ends with that guy, number 15, Patrick. I mean, how do you beat them? You know, I mean, what scheme, what deep? I mean, I thought San Francisco played too much zone. You know, if you do play man, the guys are fast, right?
Yeah, that's the problem.
You know, yeah, they're just fast. They have a great offensive line, right? He doesn't get touched. I mean, that's why when I talk about elite athletes, I like guys who are the total package. He can throw, pass, and run. He can move inside the pocket. He has pocket awareness. He understands the quarterback clock in his head. He doesn't hold on to it too long if needed. He can throw on the run. I don't know how you defend this guy. He has a baseball background, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. So he has a cannon for an arm. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm not a Chiefs fan. I'm actually a Cowboys fan. But my favorite player is Patrick. And, you know, I think there's not a defense out there that he hasn't seen. There's not a defense out there he's not comfortable enough executing on, you know. And then in this year's draft, I just feel like you let that team get those guys. Come on.
Right?
I mean,
right? How do the Raiders make
how do you let that happen?
How do you exactly?
San Diego, what are you doing? You have no receivers, and you let the Chiefs get that guy, those guys. Listen, I mean, it's just it's crazy to me. So, you know, I think they repeat. I think Patrick is a gifted quarterback. You know, I think there's a separation between him and everybody else. Obviously, you got Andy Reid with the play calling, and you know
what? I'm going to cut you off really quick.
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt
because
I have to inject this. You know, they have lab one day a week during the game weeks where it's basically Mahomes, Andy Reid, the offense. The guys can try to put plays together. It's a collaboration. Andy Reid treats them like professionals. And some of the best, you know, back pocket plays, 2-point conversion plays, you know, fourth down plays that we've ever seen have come from that offense. So when you have that approach in Kansas City and you have that literal perfect quarterback for the type of system they run, I mean, do you hear anybody complaining about Mahomes' contract? The biggest and the longest in NFL history? Like, no, because he is the complete total package. And when he gets hurt, he's resilient. He recovers quickly.
Yeah, he's tough, you know, and for a quarterback, you know, he had the ankle injury. And he was still able to move on the pocket. You know, he's a man's man. I remember in the huddle, he says, you know, he was mad because he came out the game one time, and he says, "Get me back in there. I'm gonna listen. You have to cut my foot off for me not to play today. I'm playing today." You know, and so I want to kind of mix that in there just a little bit because I just feel like I never got a chance to talk to you about football, and I mean, certain guys come along in our era, and I think he's one of them. I don't think he's quite the best quarterback yet, but he's definitely trending that way. They have to win more. And then also, too, I got to give credit to Oh my God, their defensive end. He's a beast. Chris Jones. Chris Jones. I thought Chris Jones blew up Frisco's offense last Super Bowl in certain spots, right?
Yep.
And that's why you paid the big bucks, right? It's not how many sacks you have or hurry up or rush you have. It's about when you get these plays. That's why I don't harp on how many points you score in the NBA. I care about when you score the points for the most part. Shifting to the NBA, Rhino, I won't keep you too much longer.
No, you're good, brother.
I'm okay with that.
I'm gonna full screen you so I can take a sip of water. So you do your thing. You take over the show, Mr. Moss. It's the King's Court with Mr. Moss. Oh, sorry, I took Mr. Moss. My bad, bro.
He took me out the show. Okay, cool. I'm okay with Dallas losing last night. At some point we knew Luke and Curry weren't going to have a spectacular fourth quarter. Cat got going. And I was more impressed with Minnesota because they overcame adversity. Both their big guys were in foul trouble. And you saw Cat be mentally tough last night and hit some threes, some open shots, and he shot it with confidence. I still want him down low more, posting up, using his size. I don't mind him shooting the basketball, but come on. I mean, you're 7 feet tall. Get your big butt down in the paint and dominate. And so, Luka and Kyrie didn't close out the fourth quarter like I thought they would. PJ and Derek Jones didn't do what they usually do. And Derek Lively didn't play. And so I thought a lot was on Gafford last night. I thought there wasn't like a sighting of Dwight Powell for a little bit,
I did not see that.
Maybe it was a game prior, I think. But still, with no Derek Lively, you are losing something there. And so I'm okay with them losing last night, I mean, you're up 3-0. Okay, cool, but I expect the Dallas Mavericks to come back game 5 and definitely close them out.
You think so? I don't know. I just Minnesota, they feel like a team you've got to slam the door shut on.
Okay.
And because they've proven it. They can win on the road. Their home court's been a little bit of an issue sometimes.
Yeah.
But they were one of the best teams on their home court this season in the NBA. In fact, the Kings were the first ones to beat them on their home court this year. But I don't know, man. Anthony Edwards is a different cat, and Dallas is I worry that Dallas has peaked too soon because just the attrition, the minutes that Kyrie and Luka are playing, can that last another series if they can get there? And I don't know, you let Minnesota get some momentum and then they go in and they win game 6. You saw what happened in the Nuggets series. They took the series.
Yeah, I think you bring up the minutes with Luka and Kyrie, and that's a fair take. I was on a podcast last night and that came up. But I talked about how Jason's doing a great job, that is. He's doing a great job at staggering Luka and Kyrie. Yes. Very rare do you see them both on the bench together, if any. And so he does a great job staggering, making sure he has one of those superstars on the court. And your point of have they peaked too soon? It might be possible. I mean, they've exerted a lot to get to this point. A lot. Some say they probably overachieved, right?
100%. And I said earlier, they're the best team right now in the playoffs because they play as a team. They're trusting each other. That alley that Luka had to, I believe it was Gafford, not last game, but the game before, where Luka's falling back at the end. It reminded me of the Kobe to Shaq play in Portland. It really did.
Yes, 2000, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great reference, man. Let's close on this note. Did you hear about the Phoenix Suns possibly wanting to draft Bronny James, and there was a possibility that they can land LeBron and James Jones is the, VP there or GM, whatever it is. There's a connection there, LeBron and James Jones. From a basketball standpoint, I guess, you're drafting him to get that guy. But financially, how's that going to work? I mean, they're over the cap. I mean, LeBron's already said he's not taking less money. Cleveland's $38 million over the cap, so he can't go there unless you get rid of some major contracts. I think his best place to go back to is the Lakers. But let me just say this real quick, Rhino. It really annoys me and it really just ticks me off when you got the media and you got people on TV who know the sport of basketball, right? Yep. They know they have an eye for talent, right? And they will put themselves in pretzels and and gasp through straws to overhype and sell us Bronny James. Listen, I know basketball, right? I've been around my whole life, right? And I know an NBA prospect when I see one. I mean, Mark Spears reported already 2 weeks ago on ESPN Today, a week and a half ago, from 2 scouts, and they were very clear, right? He's not an NBA prospect. And then you had the people on TV, Ramona Shelburne. I'm name dropping now.
Yeah, go ahead. I think it's fair. I think it's fair.
Ramona, you've been around Kobe Bryant. You know the standard
Closely.
Closely. You've seen the greatness, right? Like she's been in LA reporting Rhino for years.
Yep.
Right. She understands the environment Kobe exuded or he fostered, right? And for her to go on national TV and flat out lie and try to overhype this kid to please LeBron James, because let's face it, that's what they're doing, right?
Yep.
I mean, come
100%.
on, that's what they're doing. Shame on her, man. Shame on her. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I'm venting right now because it's irritating. You got kids out here who work their butt off, right?
Moss.
I mean, come on, stop,
dude. I was all Moss. I was the first couple days. I was ranting about. I think I did like a 20 or 30-minute take on that. Bronny James took a spot from probably a senior from a mid-major that deserved to be at the combine. That's worked his ass off to get that opportunity. Maybe that opportunity is the thing that puts him over the edge. That doesn't get him drafted, but gets him a free agent contract to play through the summer. Like. That's what the combine is for. Bronny James is going to get his looks no matter if he's at the combine or not. That was 100% a move by the NBA and everybody involved to hype the combine, much like the NFL hypes the combine. And it was so hard to listen to them grasp at straws for comparisons for Bronny James and to see him named the player of the scrimmage or whatever. And to get a comp. Did you hear the comp? Davion Mitchell. That is what
they said. A poor man's Davion Mitchell.
Yes, exactly right. Now, I don't want to. You know who I do feel bad for in this situation is Bronny.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
Absolutely. He's tried to come out and say, I want to be my own player. That can't be easy being in the shadow of Pops. And think about when all of you, when you became a professional, when you started to want to do something, did you want your dad pulling the strings? No, you wanted to do your thing. No. And as an adult, so I think that's frustrating across the board. But Moss, you know this, it's the credential, it's the access dance. They have to do it in order to get the scoops, in order to keep LeBron happy and be able to, be in his circle. You've got to do that. And I just, sometimes LeBron, I think he has been better for basketball than worse, but sometimes it goes over the top. And this whole thing with Bronny has been completely over the top. If the Suns, like James Jones did LeBron a favor by giving Bronny a workout there. It's just the bottom line. I talked to him, and this was nobody with the Kings. I talked to somebody at the combine and they corrected me and they said, "You mean the Bronny vine?"
Oh, Lord. Oh, so, I'm going to use that, man. Just real quick too, Rhino. And this is why, they need more guys like me and you with press credentials, because I'm not afraid to be blackballed, right? Listen, I'm not going to sell my soul to be in the group. I'm going to ask the tough questions. I'm not afraid to ask the tough questions. I think we need to challenge these athletes more. I think I'm sick and tired of cliche answers at the press box. You know what I'm saying? Like, give it to me real and uncut, right? Tell me how you really feel. And today's media, whoever that is, right? I can go down the list. Your Nick Wrights, your Chris Broussards, who actually I'm good friends with, right? Mm-hmm. The list goes on and on. ESPN, these people, right? It's like they're afraid to say what it is. And I'm used to old school media, right?
Yeah.
Our Bill Walton, rest his soul, right? Him and Steve Snapper Jones used to call the Kings games, right? They called all those Kings and Lakers games, right?
Yep.
They were old school, honest. That's where we had real integrity in journalism. And so when I went to Sac State and I got a degree in communications and sports journalism, I was going there because with the intent of becoming a journalism, but I wanted to continue the trend of honesty, straight, no favoritism, no agendas, just old-fashioned covering the game that I love.
Yeah.
And that's been taken from us in today's media. There's too many friendships. There's too many agendas. You got voters. Last point here.
Amen.
So you mean to tell me that DeMontis Sabonis didn't make the All-Star team, but he was on the second team, all-team defensive, right? How does that work? So he's not an All-Star, but the All-Star has, what, 30 guys, I'm assuming, 24, 26 guys, combined with the two teams. So he couldn't make an All-Star team.
I believe it's
14
for each, yeah.
Okay, so 28 players. So he could not make an All-Star team, right? Led the league in double-doubles, broke the double-double streak, right? He can pass. He can do everything, right?
Yep.
But he made the All-NBA second team, or was it the third team? Third team. And so, these voters need to be held accountable, right? We just saw Jason Tatum not win the MVP award in the Eastern Conference Finals when he led Boston in points, rebounds, and assists and steals. But they get to Jaylen Brown. I mean, what are we doing? So I don't know, Rhino. Maybe I won't never get my credentials because they may fire me or rebuke me the first day because I'm coming in guns blazing, man. I mean, I have to. I mean, we need to get back to old school reporting, and right now we just don't have it, man. We don't have it.
Here's the thing. Here's what I would say. I've been able to create access, whether it's with the Kings, whether it's with other organizations, whether it's people that follow teams. I've created access by the way that I'm doing my show, the way that I'm presenting my product, which a lot of it is asking the questions that people do not ask. And that's refreshing to a lot of people. The take that you just had, refreshing, but it's an old school league. And I'm not disrespecting anybody or in our local media, your Matt Georges, your Jason Andersons, your Sean Cunninghams, your James Hams. I am not disrespecting them whatsoever. They do great work, and I encourage everybody to go check out their work. Don't just listen to me, listen to everything and then make a decision. But the dance that the organizations put you through, there is, it's kind of, I don't want to liken it to the episode of Seinfeld with the soup Nazi, but it's, ask your standard question, which, the boundaries. And then the thing that I hate to hear, Moss, is there's times where reporters are asking questions and then they start backtracking during the question based on a reaction that the player or the coach may have, or a side that they may have. And by the end of the question, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, And so I'm not going to call out the Kings, but you give out more credentials as the postseason goes along, whatever. And I was sick to my stomach that play-in week, hearing some of the questions that were asked to the players, asked to Coach Brown. Somebody asked if De'Aaron Fox should be the defensive player of the year.
It's ridiculous.
The defensive player of the year. And then somebody said, more or less, look, to Malik Monk, like, basically you owe something to Sacramento. You realize that, and then ask the question about, what his plans are for the offseason. And it's like, what are we doing? There's other people like yourself, myself, and there's a million of us out there. But the problem is they've got to navigate how they're going to handle what is quote unquote new media. The media that they think is still in isn't. Okay. Like, we've had 222 people that have checked in at some point today, because I have a running ticker right there listening. I look at our analytics every night on If You Don't Like That, especially during the season, and our analytics blow away a lot of the mainstream coverage of the Kings. Yet, because we're a podcast, we're not able to be credentialed. Okay, like, we're doing a live show, you realize that, and there's more people here and we're going at the same time as the big guys here in town. They start their shows, except for one, but the main show starts at 2:00 as well. And so until the teams come around and realize that things are moving to the digital space, they're meeting it or trying to go too much in the middle, Moss, where you get people that have a vote. There was a guy that had a vote that is doing Locked On for the Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
He put Bogey in first place for Sixth Man of the Year. What are we doing? Or no, excuse me, the Atlanta Hawks. He put
Yeah.
in first place on his vote for sixth man of the year. So they see crap like that, but they don't want to look at good work. And I'm not saying I'm not doing great work. I'm not saying that you're doing great work, but it is frustrating. But you just got to create your own way. And you've talked about your context and just keep grinding. That's what we're doing. So
For
it's not
sure, man. I
anybody else.
appreciate
Just keep grinding, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate the encouragement and the kind words. And last point of here, and I'm sure you probably experienced this before. A lot of people that I talk to behind the scenes, if it's an NBA player or a commentator or somebody on TV, without saying names, their tune changes, Ryan, when that camera is in front of their face, right? We've had conversations about top 5 players and, who's doing what. Is this guy messy? Is he toxic? Why is LeBron doing this? But as soon as that camera gets inside their face, their whole tune changes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I just can't respect that. Like if you're going to say something to me behind the scenes and you mean it and you're passionate about it, then, stick with it, But again, though, like you said, it's hard for guys like us to go against the machine because, we don't have the resources per se compared to somebody else. So it's hard to overcome that. But, guys want to be in the cool crowd, right? They want to get that interview, after the game with LeBron James. They want to be able to talk to a Darren Fox or, but so that's it though. I mean, this was a good conversation. I appreciate it like always. And same to you, man. And hey, man, you guys are doing great work, man. I
appreciate it, brother.
I check you and Grant out at nighttime most of the time. I'm always just listening. It's on in the background. So you are doing great work.
Appreciate it. We got to link up, by the way, for a podcast.
Oh, we will, man.
So we'll get together.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good, Randall. Have a good one,
brother. Thanks for the call.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the other thing that I want to point out there, if you are doing this or, you have a podcast for fun, you got to draw the line somewhere. So if it's a fun thing, then let it be a fun thing. If it's a professional thing and you want to make a profession out of it, like I do, like Mr. Moss does, you need to carry yourself that way. Okay. So Mr. Moss talked about talking to people behind the scenes and then giving them different answers. Well, the problem is there's too many knuckleheads that crack open a mic and don't have any integrity, and they go on and they spill whatever they've heard as opposed to using a source. You have to do it responsibly. So if you're in Mr. Moss's shoes, if you're in my shoes, if you are in those type of shoes in a different type of industry, just keep grinding and doing it the right way, and good things will come. I can promise you that good things will come. Look, we've got a daily show here. 222 people have checked in at some point. So I thank you so much for that. We are out of time. I know there's still some brawny comments that I wanted to get in. And by the way, Dennis, Beal.
How about no?
No, brother. Beal would be a terrible idea in Sacramento. All right, we will be back at 8 p.m. tonight. Grant and I, we're going to do an open forum scrum. Make sure you check in if you're able to be there and give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. We'll finish our thoughts on Zach Edey tomorrow. There's a couple things that we will carry over, but I appreciate all of you being here on the King's Court. We'll be back tomorrow morning with an all-new King's Court morning shoot-around, flatulence free, I promise you. And we'll do it all over again tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So make sure, if you can, come back at 8 o'clock. Grant and I will be together taking questions, rapping about the Kings. Maybe we'll talk a little bit of media. Mr. Moss brings up some good points. Make it a great day to Dora.
Holy moly, Jim Bob Bowley.
Holy moly, Jim Bob Bowley. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to everybody that called. Your support means the world. Go Kings. Light the damn beam. Court is dismissed. Well, no, court is in recess because we're back at 8 p.m. tonight. Make it a great one, everyone.